How you doing? So last week I mentioned about leaving your past behind you and reaching forward toward whatever your purpose and your goal is in your life. I hope that some of you were able to step forward and lay some of those weights from your past, lay them down on the ground, lay them down on God, where He could carry them, because your past is forgiven, your past is forgotten. Don't let your past dictate your future. Today I'm going to talk about on the path to your goal, to your dream, to your purpose, to your meaning. You're going to face obstacles. We all have faced obstacles in our lives. And there are going to be times where you're going to want to give up when those obstacles confront you, and you're going to want to give up on those dreams and those goals and those purposes and your calling, whatever it is that God has for your life. But you can't give up, no matter how big that obstacle may be. So today we're going to talk about facing the giants in your life. I don't know what your giant is today. Your giant can be a sickness like cancer. Your giant can be a situation that's abusive. Your giant can be depression that keeps you down and keeps you hopeless. Your giant can be whatever it is, a circumstance, your job, unemployment, finances. There's a lot of things in our lives that could cause giants, anxiety. But whatever your giant is today, I want you to know that you could defeat that giant. And when I think about defeating that giant, I think about David. And we're going to talk about David for a moment. But I remember back in the day, I was a little tyke. I was a little guy. I was scrawny. I was skinny. And growing up in elementary school and middle school, I was picked on a lot. I was bullied on by all the bigger guys because, I was skinny, and they found it easier to pick on me. And I remember my very first fight, that this guy kept bothering me. And I just said, okay, that's it. I'm not going to take it anymore. And he was bigger than me, and we had a fight, and I got beat up. That was my first fight. But that's okay, because I was only in elementary school. But throughout my middle school, I kept getting bullied because I was a little guy. And it wasn't until high school that I actually started to grow and get taller. And I know and I remember how discouraged I was getting bullied. I remember how depressing it was and how much anger that I had inside of me, because I wanted to get these people, but I couldn't because they were much bigger than me. And sometimes when you're facing your giants, you feel discouraged because you feel helpless, that you can't defeat that giant that's in your life. Like I felt I couldn't defeat those bullies in my life. But I'm here to tell you that you're not alone in facing those giants, because God is with us. The Bible tells us that God will fight for us, that God will fight with us, and that God will help us defeat those giants in our lives. Just like David, nobody believed in him. He was just a little shepherd boy. He had all older brothers. They were in the military, and they all looked at him like a little scrawny shepherd boy. Nobody expected anything from him. But David, when he heard Goliath challenge Israel and even blaspheme the name of God, David stood up for what he believed in, regardless of the size of Goliath. Now, if you took a measurement of Goliath today, Goliath would have probably been about 10 foot tall. Listen, that's pretty big. I'm 5'9". So 10 foot tall is like another 3 foot 3 inches taller than me. And that's pretty tall. And so when Goliath challenged the armies of Israel, they all stood frozen and afraid. Even the King Saul was scared to face Goliath. And he said, who here would challenge that Goliath? Because Goliath challenged them that the loser would be the slave of the other. And nobody wanted to be a slave, but nobody would dare face Goliath either because he was so humongous. And there are times where we face those giants in our lives and we don't see any way that we're going to win. We can't see a possibility at all of us overcoming that giant in our lives. We feel like we can't get out of that circumstance. We feel like there's no remedy for our sickness. We feel that there's no answer for our questions, for our difficulties. And we just stay there like the armies of Israel stood there frozen because we don't know what to do with this giant in front of us. But David had no fear because he knew that he put his faith in the God that he had trusted in. He knew that as big as Goliath was small in comparison to the size of David's God. And we need to look at the situation in that way. Yes, our circumstances, our problems, whatever that giant is, may be big, but our God is bigger. There is no situation, no problem that you're going through that God can't help you go through. But you got to place your faith in Him. You can't just blame God when things are bad and then forget about God when things are good. Sometimes we treat God like a credit card. We have Him in our pocket, and then when we need Him because we don't have money, then we take the credit card out and then we use the credit card. God is not like that. We need to trust in Him all the time, every day, every single day. As not only when we have those difficult times, but in the good times as well. But I'm here to tell you that God says, "Come unto me, all ye that are heavy laden and burdened, and I will give you rest." God says that there's nothing impossible for God. That greater is He that is in you than he that is in the world. Listen, no matter how big your giant is that you're facing right now, and I don't know what that is, but God does. I want you to know that you're not alone, and that greater is He that is in you. Put your faith in God. And David did that because he came out without a shield, without a sword, without the armor. He just came with a little sling and 5 smooth stones that he picked up from the ground. He came to Goliath, and Goliath laughed at him, thinking that, what are you going to do with that little pipsqueak? That's like my 8-year-old grandson, who's like maybe 4 feet, fighting against Shaquille O'Neal. In the human eye, to the human mind, we would think that's impossible. There's no way that my grandson Blake is gonna overcome Shaquille O'Neal in a fight. But we need to stop looking at the battles in our lives through human eyes, and we need to look at them through spiritual eyes and see that God is with us no matter what that obstacle. And so David confronted Goliath, and Goliath just laughed at him. But before you knew it, David had taken one of those stones and put it in the sling, and he threw it, and he swung it, and he flung it at Goliath, and God guided that stone right to the forehead of Goliath, and Goliath dropped like a sack of potatoes. And he got killed, and he died by that small stone that was guided by the hands of God. And listen, I don't know what your Goliath is, but if you put your faith in God, David said, "You come to me with sword and spear, but I come to you in the name of the Lord, and He will give you into my hands." David had confidence that God was going to give him the victory. And we need to stop doubting that God could give us the victory, whatever giant that is in our lives. And David had the victory that day, and he overcame Goliath, and we all know that story. So I'm here to encourage you today. Don't be discouraged by that giant that you're facing right now. Don't be discouraged by how big that obstacle, that wall, that mountain. The Bible says that if you have faith like a mustard seed, you can say to that mountain, "Move," and it will move. Now, we're not just talking about physical mountain. We're talking about whatever obstacles in your way, God can move it. God is greater. God is bigger. God can defeat whatever is in front of you. but we need to put our faith in him. Faith means that we put our complete trust and dependence on him and not try to do it on our own. Sometimes we try to do it on our own and we mess it up, and then we come crying to God, oh, why did you let me fail? Well, because you didn't trust in me. You tried to do it on your own. And sometimes God lets you do things on your own. Just like little kids, when they're 2 and 3, they want to do things on their own. They don't want you to help them. And then when they try it and they fall, and then they're crying to you, and you're like, well, you said you wanted to do it alone. Well, God is a father who sometimes lets us, try things on our own, because he wants us to see that we can't do things on our own, that we need him to overcome those giants in our lives. So I want to encourage you today, don't get discouraged. Don't get discouraged by the giants that are in front of you, because God is greater, and God is the one that's behind you. God is the one that's beside you. God is the one that is before you. Greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. My favorite verse, Isaiah 41:10. Fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God. I will strengthen thee, yea, I will help thee. Yes, I will uphold thee with the right hand of my righteousness. No matter what it is that's in front of you, God is with you. God is before you. He will not forsake you. So whatever that is, pray victory. Pray that God will give you the courage and the strength. God may not take you out of it, but he'll definitely get you through it. So do not be afraid of whatever that thing is. God will help you, and no matter how hopeless that situation is, that giant is, how big it is, God will get you to the place where you will have victory. God bless you. Have a good night. Talk to you next time.